Hi, it's Hazel. Welcome to my channel. Today we're going to learn how to cut up a raw chicken. No, silly. I just wanted to point out that I am using, I purchased a number of these, cheap cutting boards. This one happens to have a turkey on it, that I use quite often to keep things clean, to protect my work surface. It's easy to, wipe gobbed up glue from it and so on. In fact, today we're going to be talking about the cover for my Celebration of Women journal. And hopefully you've seen the video where I talk about, the motivation and show you some of the things that I'm going to be using. So what I did, and again, you're probably as sick of hearing my apology as I am of making it. What I'm sorry about is that with my iPhone, there is no pause button. And I don't have the skill set for splicing pieces of videos. So that means that I have to do a fair bit of this offline so that, the videos aren't, 2 days long, and that you get some value out of the time you spend with me. Excuse me. So, long ago, I bought this fabric because I love the graphic nature of it. I love, I've had in mind that I wanted to do a journal about women for a long time. So, and this probably doesn't all fit on the screen, and you're thinking, holy cow, that is a very big, so 15, about 20, a little over 20 inches. Oh, I didn't mean to make it. Oh, God. Boo-boo. If you can see this, you can see that this journal cover is 10, just over 10 inches tall. Clearly, I'm going to have to restitch it and cut some off. Anyway, I bought the fabric. I am using, and I don't know if you've seen Barbara at 49 Dragonflies do her paper bag journals. She loves them. She's good at it. And I thought that that would be a good option for this journal because I don't know how many signatures I'm ultimately going to end up with. So it's more forgiving. So what I've got here is a grocery bag that I had stitched around just to hold, the two pieces together. I have a piece of quilt batting. I have this fabric that looks kind of linen-y that came from a weird apron that I bought at a where was it? As well, a secondhand. It was used, obviously. And I thought, well, this goes well with the cover. It's kind of a blank slate. I can, kind of do whatever I want. So it's a fairly loose weave. So at each, and again, I couldn't show you this, but I kind of made a sandwich. So the batting was glued with a glue stick, just in places, not close to the edge, to the paper bag. The fabric was then glued to the batting. Now, it's going to make for, it has made for a soft and squishy cover, and it will be very flexible. I did want to, I have a book handy. Well, this isn't the right size, but let's pretend that this was my book. So what I envision is, the signatures would be there, and there would be enough to wrap around. Now, of course, I now better get the height right. And in all of my measurements, I made things a little bit bigger, and I ended up having to, cut things off. And I'm keeping these fibers because, we sometimes use fibers. And so I've had to, trim and retrim things, but that's okay because I'd much rather trim too much off than think, oh dear, too short, and then wonder about how to patch something together. So obviously I made a boo-boo in that I didn't, take into account the size of the signatures. So I will cut that down and re-sew that. Now, the thing that occurred to me, and I wish I could have shown you as I was working on it, was the fact that 100 years ago, when I was taking home ec, girls took home ec, home economics, where we were taught the womanly arts of sewing and cooking. So the lesson, and it's funny, I've forgotten a lot of things in my life, but some things have stuck with me. And it's very important. Well, no, let me backtrack. In much of the things we do in journal making, this isn't going to make one damn bit of difference. But when, number one, I wanted this to be perfect. There is a pattern. I know from life experience that fabric is not always printed straight and true and plumb, and neither is it that way. So the first thing I did was, sort of figure out how big my fabric needed to be and allowed extra. And then I remembered the trick from home ec about finding, the straight line. So I made I'm just doing this for demonstration purposes. I made a little line there. I cut into it enough to be able to isolate one thread. And I'm just gently pulling on it. And if you've ever had something snag, you're well acquainted with this technique. So you gently, it's almost like you're gathering it. But in fact, what you're trying to do is find out where the straight point is. Now, this is a fairly short piece. I'm probably going to be able to get that out whole. Obviously, on something as big as that cover, I was not able to do it, and the thread broke several times. But that's okay because, as I'll show you in 1 second, when you do get that thread out, it leaves a very clear line as to what is straight and what isn't. So at this point, I would, and that's what I did with the cover. I cut down that line, knowing that at least in that direction, that is straight. So I just wanted to show that to you. Now, the other thing I did, I said that the inside fabric came from a strange, really strange apron with a lot of fabric to it. This is just a fraction of it. So what I did was I sort of squared it off, number one, so that when I fold it up for the rest of it for storage, it's not quite as, awkward. So I have pieces like this, and these have finished edges. And I don't know at this point what I'm going to do with them. Oops. Here is the hem that I cut off, so that could clearly be used somewhere on a tag or a page edge or something. Here's another piece. Now, I don't know what these are going to end up being. Am I going to sew something onto them, sort of applique something onto them? Again, this gives you an idea of the shape this thing was. But at least I've got them here. I've handled them, okay, at this point once. I will keep them with the rest of the contents for this kit, for this project. Maybe, as I did in the case of the printed fabric, I had strips. So I thought, well, I've got, my sewing machine is warm. Why don't I do some ruffles while I'm at it? So I did. And you can see that this has a much more frayed edge than this side does. When the time comes, I will even that out, or I'll trim that off, or whatever, depending how raggedy I want it to look. On this one, you can see that I lost control of the fabric at one point, but that's okay. I didn't feel like ripping and starting again. So this would probably be a natural point to cut it and use it. This I trimmed off. I'm not throwing this away because it too may have a use of some sort. So, and then this, of course, you know, I guess what the point I'm trying to make is, if you're already handling these things and you don't have a fully formulated plan of how you're going to, of all the components that you're going to use in the journal, it's a good idea to keep these things handy and try to think ahead. Now, of course, when it was too late and my plan was too far along, I thought, oh, I should slow stitch, you know, some of these things, emphasize the girl's eyes or whatever. But of course, that would then show here. And I don't want that. So who knows, maybe on another scrap piece I will do some slow stitching, just because it would be easy and I think pretty effective. Anyway, I think that probably is it for today. I'm going back to the drawing board now to cut down the top, because I like this fringy part at the bottom. Cut down the top to a more reasonable height and re-sew it and carry on. This Celebration of Women journal will be a multi-part series. And oh, the other thing I wanted to point out for people who haven't, or at least this is my experience, and maybe beginners will find this as well. The journal making is not a linear process where you step A, step B, step C, and on in a nice, neat, orderly way until voila. In my introductory video to this project, I showed you many of the things that I have. So clearly I made those over time, not knowing what the ultimate final project would look and style would be. So I'm going to I'm obviously pre-taping some of these things. I'm going to try to number the videos in some sort of a logical sequence. But I guess what I'm trying to say is you don't necessarily have to do it in the same order that I'm doing it. So if you come across some ephemera, it's getting, squished or lost or possibly damaged on your work surface, just bite the bullet and make it into something and keep it in a place that you're likely to find it. Again, I thought it was interesting. I was watching some YouTube videos yesterday, and I can't remember who it was, but I thought, oh, I identify. The woman said the first cut is the deepest or is the hardest. So I can identify with that, because the first time I cut into an old, damaged, mind you, doily, it did hurt a little, because I know the hours and the skill that went into making it, especially those really fine ones that my ancestors have done. Likewise, the first time a person cuts into a book that's, 100 or more years old. But frankly, many of these books are in sad shape already. They're falling apart. They are crumbling before our eyes. So use it. Give it a second life. And it does get easier. Let me just reassure you of that. Anyway, I will stop there and get this fixed and see you in the next video, whatever that one might be. But do, if you want to see the progress on this one, kind of a start to finish series, then by all means do keep tuning in. Oh, you know what's coming. This is my request to help me grow my channel. I won't say it all again because you can see it very clearly here. And yeah, those of you who have already subscribed, thank you so much. It's the shot in the arm and the vote of confidence that beginners and new YouTubers need. So thank you so much for that. Take care, keep crafting, and make something gorgeous today. Thank you. Bye-bye.